Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins with two rookie journalists snooping around a fresh crime scene at a sawmill in West Virginia. The bubbly reporter's insistence for her director to sack up gets them both bludgeoned by a deformed hillbilly squatting in the area. We jump to 3 days earlier where a group of college students are going camping nearby in the Appalachian Mountains. The notable characters are the douchebag Chad who almost gets them sideswiped while picking on the driver Chuck, and the psychology student Allison who majors in communications but that's questionable as you'll soon see. The non-essentials of the bunch include Todd and Chloe as well as Mitch, Jason, Naomi and Michael, all of who are devastated to learn that they forgot the beer. The two locals that they nearly just hit in their truck are a pair of hillbillies named Tucker and Dale whose mindless glare make the kids very nervous. The group pulls into a gas station to buy some beer but Tucker's already standing at the counter giving them a welcoming stare. The city kids get the country folk slightly nervous but Tuck and Dale give off the appearance as being a pair of straight-up chainsaw-wielding killers. It's now when we learn that the simpletons are actually two of the friendliest people on earth but just have a very low standard of living. Dale's too shy to talk to the attractive Allison, so Tuck encourages him to give it a go, but his approach while holding a scythe comes off as rather threatening. Following Tucker's advice, he nervously laughs at everything the girl says, but it just frightens them even more, so Chad pulls out the douchebag karate. He scares away the timid Dale who thinks that girls simply don't like his face as we follow the misunderstood hillbillies for the rest of the movie. They continue their journey to their new lakefront cabin that they've invested their life savings into, but neither have actually seen it. They still have longer to wait as they get pulled over by the sheriff, and while trying to hide the beer, Dale's sleeve gets stuck and his whole shirt comes off. Unsure of what he just walked up on, Sheriff Gurr just gives the boys a cryptic warning that there's nothing up here but pain and suffering, then up and walks away. The confused friends just grab another beer and finally finish their drive to a cabin in the woods reminiscent of Evil Dead. Looking like a serial killer previously lived there by the questionable decorations, the boys call it a fixer-upper and only notice the good things about it.
Buy 3, get 2 free, no expiration.
They don't even raise a concern when Tuck almost gets struck in the head with a falling nail board, but Dale saves him at the last second. Meanwhile, the students have set up camp nearby and Chad thinks that it's a good idea to start telling horror stories while it's broad daylight. While the asthmatic tokes on his doobie, he tells a true story that took place there 2 decades prior called the Memorial Day Massacre. 2 generic-looking hillbillies slaughtered a group of young campers except for the final girl who lived to tell this story, obviously. With the Chad's boring story finished and the sun going down, the group decides to go skinny dipping right by Tucker and Dale's new fishing spot. Tuck's currently teaching Dale to be more assertive in life, but not when it comes between him and the last beer, while Allison gets scared away by Chad's creepy advances and decides to go swimming away from the rest of her friends. Tucker tries to paddle them over for a closer look, but Dale doesn't want to be perceived as a pervert and their argument alerts Allison to their presence. In her panic, she slips and falls into the water, hitting her head on a rock, which becomes a theme with this girl. She doesn't resurface, so Dale gracefully dives in and they drag her into the boat while shouting to the others that they have their unconscious friend. Perceiving this as violent hillbillies kidnapping Allison, the moronic kids run away in fear, leaving the boys with a soggy student to take care of. They return to the cabin in hopes her friends will retrieve Allison, but she wakes up the next day still in the stranger's cabin. She just assumes the dog's vicious and that the decor must be a choice made by the homeowner Dale, whose slow approach terrifies her. He's just trying to not spill the breakfast but thinks her reactions over the pancakes, so Dale returns to the kitchen to cook some eggs instead. He returns with bacon and eggs, saying that she can't say no to that when Allison learns that the misunderstood hillbillies are completely harmless. Dale explains how she got there and introduces her to his docile dog Jangers, but since there's nothing to do but wait, they decide to play board games. Instead of coming to collect her, Chad has got all of the kids running around the woods terrified, and it doesn't help that Chuck claims he saw the hillbillies eating Allison's face. He's sent to collect the sheriff like they should all be doing, but the others are unwillingly led to the cabin by Chad as a rescue party for Allison. The eerie sounds of Tucker's chainsaw rings out as he's chopping wood in the back, and Mitch suggests that maybe they're all just overreacting. That comment gets him sent out as a sacrifice to try knock on the front door, but as he's approaching, Tucker accidentally saws into a beehive. He rounds the corner flailing like a madman with his chainsaw in hand, causing the gang to scatter into the woods while Tucker doesn't even notice them. It's not until he overtakes Mitch does he realize, but then just keeps running away from the bees, not seeing him impale himself on a fallen tree. His final moments spent learning that bumblebees are his real killer, and Mitch's friends just assume that his corpse was stuck there as a warning. Chad prevents anyone from calling the police and convinces the others that they're in a fight for survival as he's a complete whack job. Meanwhile, Tucker gets back to the cabin riddled with barbs in his face and begins to soothe the pain with a cold beverage. He tells Allison that he saw her friends outside, so Dale volunteers Tuck to locate them as he does everything to keep the pretty girl around.
Real people person.
They're never able to make contact as the kids just keep running away and listening to Dale remark about finishing Allison off, but he's talking about in a board game. The friends misconstrued it as murdering her and take his message carved into a log as a threat to come challenge them. Later in the day, as Dale's digging an outhouse, he learns that despite her skinny little frame, Allison grew up on a farm and it's either help out or get out. We establish that Dale gets distracted by Allie, so when the friends arrive they mistake her for digging her own grave while the hillbillies just standing there idle. Finally building up the courage to attack the two unfortunate friends, the kids split up and attempt to rescue Allison. A screaming Todd emerges from the bushes with a sharp stick, causing a startled Dale to accidentally knock Allison out before falling into the pit beside her. The clumsy friend then accidentally trips over, impaling himself on top of the actual victim in this case and turning the hole into a grave after all. Mike attempts to shank Tucker with his little pocket knife but dives headfirst into the wood chipper, destroying himself and the boys' chance of ever getting back their deposit. The kid's unsalvageable while Chloe's soaked in his liquefied top half, and they all retreat into the woods, assuming this confirms Tucker and Dale's guilt. Allison remains unconscious for the next few hours while the hillbillies assume that her friends have all come out here to purposely take their own lives. Tucker dissuades Dale from calling the police for fear that they'll be accused of being murderers and begins cleaning the place up, starting with a woody. They pry Mike's legs from the machine, and after getting more acquainted with it than Dale would like, he assists Tucker in dragging it away. Suddenly the sheriff arrives at the worst possible time, but unlike the kids, he hears the homeowners out as Tucker tries to describe the unexplainable situation.
We've had a doozy of a day.
Dale says Allison can testify to everything, so Sheriff Gurr leaves the friends outside and enters to inspect the surely concussed girl. He's pleased to see that she isn't dead, but not that the boys failed to fix the broken beam that porcupines a nailboard into the sheriff's head. With them protruding from his skull, the sheriff staggers over to his patrol car but is unable to just walk it off, and he dies another victim of circumstance. Assuming the hillbillies are at fault, Chuck attempts to use the sheriff's gun, but he's untrained and just ends up blowing off his own head. The only other student that isn't locked in the backseat is Chad, as he went all survivalist instead of going to the police, and he gets hold of the gun. Shooting at Tuck and Dale, they're forced to take cover inside the cabin, with the only thing holding the shooter back is the fear that they're actually killer hillbillies. It's here where Dale confesses that he doesn't even like fishing and just comes to hang out with Tuck, but that seems to hurt the friend's feelings as he really likes fishing. When Chad captures Jangers to lure the boys outside, they attempt a rescue mission where Dale uses a nail gun to lay down suppressive fire. Tucker flanks them and manages to release the dog, but he gets caught by the Chad and wakes up strung up by his feet from a tree. He's given a speech about how much Chad hates hillbillies, so Tucker tries bribe him with all 10 beers from his cooler, but Chad just hacks off an undisclosed part of his hand. When Allison wakes up from her coma, she learns from the traumatized Dale about everything she missed and ventures outside to see all of the dead bodies scattered around the garden. She finds a letter left on the doorstep containing Tucker's invaluable bowling fingers, so Dale takes the machete to go save his best friend. Before he leaves, Allison explains the misunderstanding as thinking they were murderers, but Dale just blames himself for trying to talk to a pretty girl. He finds Tucker being used as bait and narrowly avoids taking a trap to the groin, as the Lord blessed him to not be hung. Meanwhile, Chad and Naomi sneak inside the cabin to rescue Allie, so she finally gets to explain what really happened and how the boys saved her life. Naomi accuses her of having Stockholm Syndrome, which I don't think Chad knows what that is because it just makes him raise the axe to her throat. Tucker and Dale come bursting in ready for a fight, but Allison calms everyone and sits them down for an actual discussion, which doesn't help at all. Chad goes first and reveals that his father died in the Memorial Day massacre while his mother was the sole survivor. Returning from the unrelated story, everybody just rolls their eyes and the boys explain that they aren't the same hillbillies, as they would be like 60 years old. Suddenly the remaining kids break in to save their friends, but Jason just ends up accidentally destroying Naomi's face with a weed whacker. Chad attacks Dale with the axe, so Tucker punches him in the face, but the dumb kid chucks an oil lamp, missing the two and hitting Jason. It alone wouldn't be enough to kill him, but the helpful Chloe hurries the process by throwing moonshine on it, causing him to be engulfed in flames. The fire spreads to a pile of gas cans in the corner, so while Tucker, Dale and Allison escape, a still living Naomi prevents Chad from leaving her behind. Chloe just sits there, and all three along with the cabin explodes, losing the boys their holiday home and Allison her desire to be a therapist. Somehow Chad manages to survive and the disfigured asthmatic just keeps coming like a T-800, so the trio flee in the truck. Or at least they would if Dale didn't crash while he's distracted and wake up to find himself alone with Jangers. A badly injured Tucker fought off Chad to save Dale, but he still managed to take Allison. Having taken too much damage to continue, Tuck gives a speech about how Dale's not as ugly as he thinks he is and reveals that he never let Dale catch the bigger fish, he was always just the better angler. With that motivation and a painful shake of the three-fingered hand, Dale uses Jangers to follow Allison, sent to the old sawmill from the beginning. Inside, the mutilated Chad's got her tied to a saw table, threatening to kill her for going what he calls full hillbilly, while of course licking her face. Dale arrives, grabs a chainsaw from the shed and puts on some intimidating looking tree lopping gear, but he finds Allison now alone. When he tries to untie her, Chad turns on the saw and attacks Dale, but he sticks the mutant in the leg with a climbing spike. With a slow motion throw of the axe, he cuts Allison's bindings before Dale continues to fight Chad in a duel of chainsaw vs metal pole. The kid's surprisingly strong for some reason, so Dale just flees upstairs with Allison in true horror movie fashion instead of out the front door. While barricading themselves inside, they find a picture of a killer from the Memorial Day Massacre who looks an awful lot like Chad. When he bursts in wielding the chainsaw, the pair reveal that Chad's half hillbilly like it's a friggin' race, and his father was really his mother's attacker. Distracted in his disbelief, the surprisingly smart Dale throws a box of chamomile tea in his face, causing the Chad to have an asthma attack. Falling to his apparent death, Dale explains that he learned Chad was allergic during Allison's therapy session, which is somehow still killing people hours later. When the news crew from the beginning arrive, they correctly conclude the deaths were mostly the result of the students topping themselves. The Chad obviously survived the ordeal, as we saw in the beginning, while Tucker recovers at a hospital from his wounds, but appears to have had one of Chloe's fingers reattached by mistake. Much to his delight, Dale's got a date with Allison where he takes her bowling after she says she's pretty good at it. He encourages fellow hillbilly BJ to go talk to some girls, expecting him to receive the same reaction that he gets from Allison. Dale confesses his feelings, which she reciprocates, and he's also got her a brand new helmet to prevent her from continuing to hit her head. The two kiss through a woman screaming as BJ knocks her out after being rejected and drags her body away in the background. And the movie ends.